Coming to you live from the JRE Tobacco Aladino Mobile Studios, it's the Cigar Pulpit.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another sermon from the Cigar Pulpit. I'm the Bishop of the Burn, Nick, and today we're gonna give you a little good advice in regards to some bad advice. It's one of those things that I'm sure everybody has been given some erroneous advice as it is, in the cigar lounge. You're kind of dealing with life. You're sitting there trying to relax, things of that nature. But then somebody comes along and they tell you, oh, you're doing this wrong, or oh, you ought to do this, or something like that. And it's just wrong. It's just wrong advice. Because if there's one thing that every cigar lounge you're going to visit, and I don't care if it's your home lounge or any lounge, there's a know-it-all. And if you are thinking about a cigar lounge and you can't think of who the know-it-all is, I hate to break it to you, you might be the know-it-all. And if you're giving this advice, then you need to knock it off. So we're going to talk about bad cigar advice today. But first, we're going to fire up a cigar because, well, that's what we do. And so today, I am going to be smoking the Aladino Fuma Noche. It's pretty late here, and so I figured I'd end my night with the Fuma Noche, which, night smoke. So we're going to go with the Fuma Noche, and it is a 6 1/4 by 54, featuring an undisclosed wrapper, Honduran binder, and Honduran filler. And it is a relatively new addition to the Aladino line. I think it came out last year. I'm pretty sure it came out last year. It's a night. They named it appropriately. It's the night smoke. It's the cigar you're supposed to end your day with. And so, given the lateness of the hour at which I record this and everything, this is a busy week. Very busy week. It kind of snuck up on me, and I didn't realize just how busy it was until I started sitting down, or until I woke up this morning and was looking at my to-do list, and then I realized, holy shit, I have a very limited amount of time to get a lot of stuff done. So it's late, and so I'm banging this thing out before I go to bed. But first, it's time to cut the cigar. And the official cutting is brought to you by 2guyscigars.com. That's the number 2guyscigars.com. 2 Guys have been around for 40 years, and they are the trusted name in the cigar industry. Everybody knows 2 Guys, but if you don't, please give them a try. You won't be sorry. Family owned and operated, 2guyscigars.com does the very best to provide a great selection, fair prices, and excellent customer service. So head on over to 2guyscigars.com for your next cigar purchase. Tell them that the Cigar Pulpit sent you. Put it in the little comment box just so that they know. And remember, that's the number 2guyscigars.com. And with that, it's time to go ahead and cut the cigar. So, going to get this guy cut here, and then we'll jump right into it. So yeah, I found an article that details some cigar advice, and quite frankly, some of it's pretty bad. And so I figured, this is an opportunity to discuss bad cigar advice and to correct the record a little bit. So, by the way, I'm lighting this thing today with a new toy. I was out and about, bought a few cigars, saw myself something, and you know what? I decided, Nick, it's time to treat yourself. Treat yourself. You have a really nice cutter, get yourself a nice lighter. Now, it's not so much a lighter for the pocket. This is the Winston by Lotus. The guys on the authority call it the steampunk lighter. But this thing, heavy duty. It's a table lighter. This is definitely one I'm going to keep at home, but it's a nice table lighter. And it has a nice little, where is it? Where is the button? Oh, it's on the side. So it's the side button here. And it's just one push. And the one push lifts the lid. But it also triggers the 4 jets, the 4 giant jets that come alive in from the quote-unquote big-ass tank. But let me tell you, this thing is beefy. I love it. And this is going to be the first cigar that I fire up with the Winston by Lotus. So while we do that, while I light my cigar, why don't you listen to the greatest commercial you've ever heard?
Some say cigars are all the same. It's just not true. It's you I have to blame.
Well, I don't know, 'cause what I know, there is a cigar called Aladino Corojo.
Aladino Corojo. Aladino Corojo. They say authentic, so we're not confused, while the others say it's a word that's just abused.
I guess that's so, they can't compete. At least I'm sure Aladino can't be beat.
Corojo. Aladino Corojo. Aladino Corojo. Aladino Cigars use authentic Corojo tobacco from JRE Tobacco. This is the greatest commercial you ever heard.
Yeah.
All right. So, now that we got this guy lit up and going, trying to get it going a little evenly there. I got one, you know how it is, you got one little hot spot that just kind of wants to take off, and it's like, no, let's circle back. But anyway, had to just do a little quick nothing touch up there. So, okay, like I was saying, let's say you're sitting in the cigar lounge. You're just enjoying your cigar, and by God, the know-it-all has to pipe up and start telling you about this, that, and the other thing. And, you know, we have all sorts of different... Everybody's got their way of doing things. And what is maybe one person's right way is another person's wrong way, and whatever. But there are some things that are generally accepted that maybe, just maybe, you shouldn't do, or maybe, just maybe, isn't quite accurate. So the first one I want to touch on is one that even I did early on. I learned, you know, it was eventually explained to me, and it was something that I did innocently. I did it ignorantly, but it was eventually explained to me why people don't do it. And once it was explained to me, I kind of realized, you know, that makes a lot of sense given some of the issues I've had and things of that nature. And so the first one is, the first piece of bad advice is you should always remove the band first. And this is so wrong. You know, this is wrong because the band is sometimes glued to the wrapper on purpose or erroneously. You know, so they seal these things up with the pectin, and so sometimes that pectin, you know, gets on the wrapper. And so what you want to do is you want to smoke down to the band, and once you smoke down to the band, like you get close, the cigar gets warmer. You know, that heat from the end of the cigar comes down towards the band, and it loosens that pectin to where then you can pop that band off, and it won't tear the wrapper. You know, if you take the wrapper or the band off right out of the cellophane, that cigar is, you know, room temperature at best. You know, it's not lit, it's not warm, and so that pectin is solid. And so then you're taking that band off, there's a good chance you're going to take a chunk of wrapper with it. And once you do that, then you have, you know, exposed the binder, and you could have cracks, you could have runs, you could have, you know, a hole where smoke escapes from. There's all kinds of issues that can come from that. So leave the band on. You know, some people say that removing the band is sophisticated, or that it's disrespectful to leave it on. You know, there are times when I would say to leave the band off, or take the band off. If let's say you're somewhere and you're smoking something that place does not sell. First of all, I don't know why you'd be doing that, because you should have been buying cigars from the place that you're at. But if, let's just hypothetically say, I don't know, maybe a rep is doing an event in store, and maybe you're friends with that rep, and that rep gives you some sample thing that's like, hey, give this a try and let me know what you think. But he's not giving it to everybody else. Again, I probably would hold off and just message that guy later. But let's say you don't. Let's say you decide to go back in the back and fire it up. Take the band off. That's the only time I would say to take the band off, is if you're in a situation where you're in a place and you know they don't sell that thing. The last thing in the world you want is somebody being like, oh, where'd you get that? But they can't get it there. So that'd be the only time. Otherwise, truthfully, I don't see why there is a really valid reason to take the band off. If you're talking about, being disrespectful, I mean, what are you doing? Are you smoking like an $800 cigar in a room full of people smoking like $7 cigars? I mean, that's not disrespectful. The only time that's disrespectful is when you're like pointing out to the people that it's an $800 cigar and they're only smoking $7 cigars. Who gives a shit? If you paid it, you paid it. Just don't brag about it. I think that's the solution there. So piece of bad advice number one that you should ignore is you should take the band off first. All right, now piece of bad advice number two, and this is one a lot of people have heard, but probably not from many cigar smokers, is bad advice number two: Cuban cigars are always the best. And, with that follow-up, like, oh, if it's not a Cuban, it's not a real cigar. Well, let me tell you, it's bullshit. I've had Cuban cigars. I feel like, by and large, if you've been around for a minute, most cigar smokers have had Cuban cigars. They're not quite as difficult to get a hold of as some may say. But they're not as good as what the reputation is either. It's one of those things where, the construction can be wonky, can be iffy. Flavor notes, in the ones I've had at least, tend to be pretty one note. You get one, and it is what it is all the way through. And it's not necessarily bad, but it doesn't vary. It doesn't change up. It doesn't have much complexity to it. It's what it is. If you like, it's one of those things. If you like Cuban tobacco, here's a shit ton of it. So yeah. So it's just not the case. I mean, when you start getting into other blends, the quote unquote New World cigars, I've talked about this on here lots of times. The New World cigars, that's where you get the innovation. That's where you get the mix. It's like this Aladino I'm smoking right now. Yeah, it's a Honduran binder and filler. And for all I know, I'm sure the wrapper was grown, at the Aladino farm. But what kind of wrapper it is, I don't know, because it's undisclosed. But the thing is, you can get cigars that have a Pennsylvanian broadleaf wrapper and Honduran binder and Nicaraguan fill. I don't know. I'm making shit up. But the bottom line is you can get this cigar that becomes this 3-country or more hodgepodge. And that's what Cuban cigars are lacking. They're lacking the other ingredients. They're trying to cook with one ingredient, and they're handicapping themselves with that. And they need to spread their wings a little bit and cook with the others. And look, I'm not saying anybody in particular, but let's be real. You all know that there's at least some cigars that are out in the market. Typically, I would assume in Europe. I'm not going to say that they're in the States. I'm not going to say they're not in the States. But I am going to say that there's a much better chance of them being in the rest of the world than in the United States. cigars coming from brands that we know and that we love that, include Cuban tobacco. I have a story. I was talking with, this was a while back. I was talking with a cigar shop owner, and they were telling me about how they got a box of cigars from a Honduran cigar maker. And it's one that you all know. Pretty famous for one specific line of cigars that doesn't use cellophane, but got creative with the packaging, if you know what and if you know what I mean, you know what I mean. But they got this box of cigars, and the packaging on this thing was different. It was different than the regular, or than the packaging they'd seen on this cigar prior. And they're like, wow, they must have updated the box. They did some things different with it. It looks different. And they reached out to the company and told them, hey, I really like the packaging redesigns you did on this cigar. The company reached out to them and said, whoa, what are you talking about? So they said, we got it in our shipment from you guys, and it included this box of cigars that we'd ordered, and the box is totally different. It looks way different than the prior box that we had. And they said, you absolutely 100% cannot put that box out for sale, and we need you to send it back to us right away, and we will be sending out a box of that cigar to you to replace it. Now, come to find out, that was a version of that cigar that included some Cuban tobacco. And it was meant for the rest of the world, not for the United States. And so that's fun, It's fun to think that there are people that are using some product. But yeah, it's just one of those things that we just can't have here, and that's fine. But my point is, anybody who tells you that a Cuban cigar is the best cigar and the only, and anything that's not a Cuban is not a real cigar, they don't know what the hell they're talking about, or they're just trying to be a know-it-all snob. And that's what this is all about, is talking about how not to be a know-it-all snob. Now, the next one, admittedly, sometimes, okay, I'll say it and then we'll kind of get to it here. So bad advice number 3 is lick your cigar before lighting. Now, it makes you look like a dumbass, is what it does more than anything. Anybody who tells you that it burns better when you've licked on it is just being stupid. Extra moisture can actually screw with the burn, so I don't know why you would want to do that. I mean, it's one of those things, if I had a hot spot going that was really bad, the solution to that would be for me to, kind of dab my fingertip with a little bit of spittle and kind of put it on the hot spot to cool that specific spot down. Thankfully, I don't have that going on. I actually have. I need to get this. I'm talking too much and I'm not puffing, and so this thing's not staying going as long. But licking your cigar, all it does is just make you look like a moron. You're just sitting around and watching all these people licking their cigars like ice cream cones. It's just, it's goofy. So, here's the thing. Every once in a while, you will see me lick the end, kind of moisten the end of my cigar before I cut it. That is one thing I will do. I have my own cutter, so, it's what it is. I'm not borrowing anybody's cutter after I do that. And if I am if I am in a situation where I have to borrow somebody's cutter, obviously I'm not going to do that. But I have found that a little bit before cutting kind of helps avoid some cracking issues if a cigar is too dry. Now, if a cigar is properly humidified, it's pointless. It's something you don't have to do. But anyway. But no, in terms of licking all the way up and down, you just look like a fucking moron, You shouldn't do it. I don't even know why that is something anybody even talks about. And, I'm going to go one step further. If you're smelling, if you're just running the cigar up and down your nose like that, I mean, that's goofy as fuck, too. I mean, look, I get it. They have an aroma to them. They have, their own scent. And, they can be pleasant, but you can smell the foot. Smelling the wrapper, I mean, I don't know. You're not going to be getting... It is what it is. I personally would not be snotting my cigar up and down, or licking my cigar up and down. It's just what it is. So don't do that. Don't be a dog. Don't lick the cigar up and down like that. It just makes you look goofy. So next, if a cigar makes you cough, you're weak. Now, despite the amount of shit that I have taken on this show over the last, 5+ years about my coughing on the retrohale, coughing with a cigar does not make you weak. It just means that you had a moment that kind of overcame you. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Strength varies, and your experience with cigars also varies. So if, let's say, you're a relatively new smoker and somebody gives you a strong cigar, you might have a little bit of a coughing incident. It might catch you off guard. Your nicotine tolerance may not be quite as high as somebody else. Maybe you're not used to that specific type of tobacco. Whatever, who cares? You're learning, you're experiencing something new. It's not the end of the world. And look, if let's say you're smoking a cigar and you find yourself coughing a lot and you find yourself thinking this thing's really strong, just slow down. Just slow down. It's not that big of a deal. You can take smaller puffs. You can take more time in between puffs. Pair it with something to drink. If you, and I would say that if the nicotine buzz is starting to get to you, and look, I've had friends that have said specifically that. I referenced one, with Ed Sullivan just in the recent episode. I have a friend of mine who he maybe smokes 3 cigars a year. He can't smoke Perdomos because he says they're just too nicotine heavy for him. One of the things you can do to kind of counteract that is pair it with something sweet to drink. Pair it with, a Dr. Pepper or a sweet tea or something that has some sugar to it, because that sugar works with the nicotine and it balances you back out. But nobody should be making fun of anybody, for coughing if the cigar is just too strong for them or something like that. That's bad form. We should be encouraging people. We shouldn't be making fun of them. I know there were guys I know there's women listening to this, but by and large, in the cigar lounge, it's probably the majority men. And if that's the case, we're gonna bust each other's balls. I get that. A little bit of friendly ribbing is one thing, but don't take it too far to where suddenly somebody feels self-conscious about it and it becomes a thing. So, and then number 5, I had 5 of these. Although to be honest, I might throw in a 6th. Although I had one on my mind and now I'm blanking on it. So maybe I won't. Number 5, never relight a cigar. Oh, I do remember number 6. Number 5, though, never relight a cigar. Some people say that once it goes out, it's ruined and you're done with it. I will freely admit, I rarely relight cigars. Mostly because I try really hard to pick a cigar based upon the amount of time I have. So if, let's say, I have 45 minutes to an hour, I'm going to smoke something smaller. I'm not going to go for like a big, Aladino Fuma Noche here. I'm going to go for something a little smaller, a little easier. That's the key, is making sure that you're selecting the right cigar for the occasion. However, if, let's say, something happens and you just gotta go, you can relight a cigar. Now, look, I wouldn't recommend lighting a cigar or relighting a cigar. I don't know. I wouldn't. I'd say if you're going to be gone for a couple hours, that's one thing. If you're thinking, oh, I'll smoke this today and I'll finish it, in 3 days, just let it go, man. Let it go. But if you're thinking that you can come back to it in a few hours, there's nothing wrong with that. All you got to do is when you're thinking you're done, when you're getting ready to like put it down, call it a day, blow through it. Like really just blow through the cigar. Not only is that going to push excess smoke out, but it's also going to push some of the ash particulate that's in there, and it's going to push that out the end. Then it kind of clears the chamber for the next relight. Then when you come back and you're going to relight the cigar, just give it a light toast real quick. And then when you're at the point that you got it in the mouth and you're kind of drawing on it, where you normally would be drawing on it and turning it with the flame, what you do is again, blow out for the first little bit, in order to get it going. And then that way, it's, again, blowing that ash particulate out. Because, I have lit this cigar. If I were to relight this cigar, fully relight this cigar, a couple hours from now, then this cigar would, if I didn't do that, what would happen is this cigar would take on the taste of burnt tobacco. And nobody wants that. It negatively impacts the flavor of the cigar by doing so. So just blow through the tube, clear the chamber. It'll be okay. And like I said, just don't think you can come back to it a few days later. It's going to be gone by then, but whatever. Now, one thing that I will say in my own personal experience, maybe if you do this, maybe if you relight the cigar and you're looking to notice some things, maybe you're paying attention. Pay attention to the flavor. Did it change? I have personally found that for a lot of cigars, when I relight them, I find that the spice level in them kind of has ramped up. I don't know what it is. I don't know why that necessarily is, but for whatever reason, when I relight a cigar, I find that it's a little spicier, a little tinglier, a little more in the mouth than it was before. And so, it adds a little bit of extra extra zest. So, give that a try. See what's what. Yeah. So, anyway, that would be the 5 pieces of bad advice that I have for you that you should not, follow. These are things not to follow. So you should always remove the band first. Don't do it. Cuban cigars are always the best. No, they're not. Lick your cigars before lighting, only if you want to look like a moron. If a cigar makes you cough, you're weak. No. And never relight a cigar. It happens all the time. It's not a big deal. What bad advice have you heard? Have you guys heard some pieces of bad advice in the cigar lounge that you want to share? Call into the hotline, area code 863-874-0000, and, share your bad advice with me. I'm curious to hear what sort of additional bad advice you may have. And then in terms of, in terms of bad advice, look, what's good for the goose is not always good for the gander. So if you're somebody who does take off the bands on your cigars, maybe you're meticulous and you're careful and you manage to get them off without tearing the wrapper, bully for you. If you want to look like a moron and lick your cigar up and down, you know what? It's your cigar, but don't be surprised when somebody makes fun of you. Whatever. So anyway, that's that. Why don't we now go ahead and do this? It's time for the Villiger Cigars Entertainment Report, Brought to you by
Villiger.
Villiger Cigars, one of the leading cigar and cigarello manufacturers in the world, founded in 1888 and still family-owned and operated. Head over to VilligerCigars.com and check the store locator to find a shop near you that carries them. We guarantee that Villiger Cigars will be a wonderful addition to your humidor and cigar rotation. All right, guys. I have been indulging in 2 shows lately. I watched the most recent episode of The White Lotus Season 3. This is the 5th episode of the season. I think, I don't know how many. You know what? Here, real quick. How many episodes of White Lotus? Fudge. There's 8 episodes in season 3. There were 6 in season 1, 7 in season 2, and now 8 in season 3. Oh, that means we're only just past the halfway part. Damn it. You know, I actually just watched the most recent one today, and thinking that there was only one left, I was like, well, that's good, because I'm getting really bored with this. And I just keep saying it. I'm just so effing bored with it. However, Sam Rockwell made an appearance in this most recent episode, and I love Sam Rockwell. He is great in so many different things. One of my favorite roles of Sam Rockwell's was as the commander in Jojo Rabbit. He's great as Justin Hammer in the Iron Man movies. Iron Man 2, I believe it was. And he's a good actor in so many different things. He made an appearance in this episode. Boy, he made a memorable appearance. He gave quite the little speech to Walton Goggins' character. And it was interesting. But yeah, aside from that, this season just continues to be the same old White Lotus bullshit where it just drags along, and I'm just not feeling it. But I at this point, I felt like I was nearing the end. I thought there was only 6 episodes, so I was like, I'll push through. Now I'm over halfway, so now I feel like I'm invested that much. I might as well go ahead and go for it and finish it out. So, whatever, fuck it. But the thing I am excited about is a show that I mentioned to Ed Sullivan called Severance. I sat down and I started watching that, and that's on Apple TV. And let me tell you, that show has got me absolutely 100% hooked in the space of 2 days. I have watched nearly the entire first season. It's 9 episodes. The season finale for the second season is on Friday, so I'm trying desperately to see if I can binge my way through the second season before Friday. Don't know if I'm going to be able to pull it off, but oh my God, it's so Twilight Zone-y. It's creepy. It's kind of oddly funny at times, but there's connections and things there that you didn't even know were there, and then like this mystery begins unfolding, and oh my gosh, it's the best. I'm digging this show so much. Just as a one sentence little descriptive, Severance is a show about people who undergo a procedure called severance, where they separate their home and their work life. So when they're at home, they are who they are. But when they go to work and they go in this there's one floor, it's the severed floor. And when they go in the elevator, this little thing triggers in them, and their brain kind of switches, and it switches to this other personality, or not really other personality. It's them. It's just them with no memories of the outside world. And so they go in and they do their work. And then when they leave, it switches again. So when you're on the outside, you don't remember anything about work. And when you're on the inside, you don't remember anything about what's going on out in the real world. And it's kind of interesting to see how that interacts and how that kind of plays back and forth, and how that becomes both good and problematic for people. So anyway, I can't recommend Severance enough. Apple TV, there's not a ton of content on Apple TV in terms of like, shows and streaming and things of that nature. But the stuff that's on there I find to be really, really high quality. Between Ted Lasso and this now. So I've been happy. I've been very pleased with it. And yeah, it's super good. So yeah, Severance. Highly recommend Severance. All right. Well, now that we've done that, let's do this now. It's time to fly high with Blackbird Cigars. Blackbird Cigars offers you remarkable quality using the most delicate and finest tobacco to always ensure that you're receiving unsurpassed cigars. Blackbird Cigars strives to give you undoubted repeating flavor for every cigar you smoke and impressive quality so that you can always expect greatness. Check out their website for a full list of stores carrying Blackbird Cigars and give them a test flight. Blackbird Cigars, can't clip our wings. So, I am getting the cigar going here. I swear, I don't know if I'm talking too much or what, but I'm struggling to keep the Fuma Noche lit here. But having had this cigar before, this is not indicative. I think, I'm just talking too damn much. So, at 19 years old, University of New Hampshire student Cameron Lyle registered to be a bone marrow donor. And at age 21, Lyle was informed that a 28-year-old man with leukemia was in need of a bone marrow transplant. Despite having a promising career as a track and field athlete ahead of him, Lyle didn't hesitate one bit when given the chance to save someone's life. He sacrificed the opportunity to continue competing in athletics at university in order to save a stranger. He told the news that it's just a sport. Just because it's Division I college level doesn't make it any more important, and that life is a lot more important than that, so it was pretty easy. So guys, be like Cameron Lyle and Blackbird Cigars, and don't let anybody clip your wings. It's a nice story. I like the the transplant stuff, man. Like, you can do so much with that if you sign up to be a donor. Not necessarily, I guess in this case, but, organ donor, blood donor, whatever. It's blood donation's a simple thing you can do for people. Organ and bone marrow, obviously that's much more significant, but it's something to consider. So if you haven't considered it, look into it. I'm going to do this, even though I technically did it Friday with Ed Sullivan, but, it is a Tuesday bit, so I'm only going to have 2 instead of 3, but
guess what, motherfucker?
It's time for, in this case, 2 cigars that I've smoked and enjoyed this week. My first one is one that I sat and smoked while watching Severance the other night, and that was the La Libertad Toro from Villiger. That's one that that was the first, no, that was the second Villiger I encountered. The first was the 2020 TAA. The La Libertad, that was the first cigar from them that I encountered, or where I met Renee. I met Renee at TPE, and that was, I believe, 2021, maybe. He was there, and they were promoting the La Libertad, and that's when I met Renee. And obviously, things have blossomed and gone well from there. But no, the La Libertad, fantastic cigar. A lot of deep, earthy flavor to that cigar. Rich. Good cigar. I really do enjoy it. But it's not one that I find myself I really love that 1888 Nicaragua of theirs. And it's one of those things where once that came out, it's like blinders went on for so many more things. But I found some La Libertads when organizing some cigars the other day, and I'm like, son of a bitch, I need to smoke one of these. And I did, and I enjoyed it. Now, the other one that I smoked and enjoyed, boy, it was an interesting night. So Friday night, we had, here in the St. Louis area, some hellacious storms roll through. And by the time it was all said and done, I think National Weather Service has said there were 6 tornadoes that popped up and hit areas all around, including an EF1 that hit one town over where I have my newspaper based. So guess what I'm writing about, in this week's paper. And so, Friday night was interesting. The storms rolled in late. I had to wake up my son. He went to bed, and he was in bed, but I had to get him in the bathroom because I don't have a basement. So the bathroom is the centermost room. It was one of those things. I was sitting out here in the garage having a cigar. The power kicked off, and that was the moment that I'm like, okay, go inside, continue to watch this. And then the hail started. And once the hail started and began, that's when I went ahead and I got him, and we went in the bathroom and we hunkered down in there for about 45 minutes. But it was a harrowing night. Thankfully, no damage here at the homestead. But prior to the power going out, I was sitting out here watching the local news, the local weather on my iPad, and enjoying a Diamond Crown Julius Caesar. I had the Hail Caesar size. It's the big fat 6x60 one. It's one that Bobby Newman gave to me at TPE, and so I was enjoying that cigar. Just watching the lightning in the window here above me, watching Steve Templeton of Channel 4 News in St. Louis, just get on. I don't know if you guys have this, but I'm sure every city has one of these guys, these weather guys that, they take their storm, duties very, very seriously. And so with Steve Templeton, we have the Steve Templeton wardrobe scale. That's what tells you how serious this shit is. If he's in he still has his coat on, and whatnot, level 0, everything's fine, no big deal, moving on with life. The minute he takes off his jacket and rolls up his sleeves, we're in fucking storm mode, and you need to pay attention, because Steve Templeton is going to be getting right to the heart of the matter. And he's going to tell you all about it. And he's serious because, by God, his sleeves are rolled up. Then there's level 2. Level 2 is when the tie gets loosened and the neck, button gets unbuttoned and, whatever. And he typically gets a little snippy. He gets a little snippy with the other people in the weather studio that are helping him out, And so that's level 2. That's when shit, you really, really need to be paying attention. And anything above that, quite frankly, we're all going to die. It's just bad. But I'm sure every town has one of their weather guys that just but he is so dramatic with the weather. But I'll say this. He was calling tornadoes left and right, including they had to go down in the basement of their studio, and he never went off the air. He kept his mic. They left the radar up on the screen, and he kept talking the whole way down through the stairwell into the basement. And you could hear doors opening and people moving and walking around and everything. And then he got down to the basement where they had a secondary studio set up, and he came on down there. And you know what? I give the man a lot of credit, because he could have very easily been like, all right, I need to take 30 seconds to get down to the basement. I'll be right back with you, and just left us with no audio. But he didn't. He talked the whole way down, explaining things without a screen, without a computer. He just did it. And so I thought that was impressive. But anyway, no, it was a really rough night for a lot of people. There were fatalities here in Missouri. In Missouri, none over on my side of the river, thankfully. But obviously those were not the only storms. There were a number of storms that hit, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia. There were storms all over. I was messaging on the parishioners group with somebody who lives in Indiana, and they were watching it because obviously the storms that are hitting me are going to jump over to Indiana, and so they got to watch that. And so, it's one of those things. There was a lot of storm activity going on this weekend, and it wasn't good, and a lot of people lost their lives, and a lot of property damage was done, and it's really sad. So, we're thinking about everybody that has to deal with that. Again, thankfully I don't, although I'm probably still going to have somebody come out and look at my roof because, my God, that hail was just pounding the house there for a while. And, when I bought the house, they said that I had about 5 years left on this roof. So maybe a hailstorm just bought me a new roof. Who knows? But, yeah, so that's what's going on there. So anyway, so that's the 2 cigars I smoked and enjoyed this week. In terms of the socials, I'm available on Instagram at The Cigar Pulpit. I'm on Facebook, where we have the Pulpit Parishioners group. You can get in on the fun there. I'm on Twitter/X. I'm on Rumble, so if you want to watch this, you should go over to Rumble, sign up, subscribe to the Pulpit, because while I am on YouTube, you can do the same on YouTube as well. YouTube likes to censor cigar content, so at some point or another, I may not be on YouTube, but I'm going to be on Rumble. So you can do both. And then if you're a Spotify user, I do upload the video to Spotify, so if you want to do Spotify video, I'm there too. Otherwise, I completely forgot. I had a 6th piece of bad advice for you. So I'm going to circle back to that. I'm going to circle back to that right now. I actually remembered. So back in the day, apparently the rule of thumb was smoke a cigar to the band. And I've heard that a couple of different times, that you should stop smoking a cigar when it reaches the band. And, in some cases, that leaves a fair amount of cigar left, but it doesn't leave a ton. Like, for example, this Aladino, it's like that would leave the final third, essentially. Maybe you're right about the final third, but it wouldn't be like the end of the world if, let's say, you stopped there. I mean, you got the bulk of it out. But let's just hypothetically say you got one of these things that's got these gigantic foot bands on it, or maybe it's got the top band and another secondary big band. Are you really only smoking that much of the cigar? No, you're going to take off a band. There's so many cigars now that have multiple giant bands on them. So to say, only smoke it to the band, that makes absolutely no sense. Don't do that. I don't even know if that's even a thing anymore. That might be an old school, more 90s cigar boom, piece of bad advice. But anyway. Yeah. So the Fuma Noche. I dig it. I enjoy it. I'm talking too damn much. So it has struggled to stay with me. At this point, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to sign off. And I'm going to finish the cigar. And then I will upload the show. And everybody can enjoy this in the morning. But that's the plan. So, okay, guys. This is what happens when I push my day and I'm recording at like 11 o'clock at night. I find a quick topic that I can hit like this. So hopefully it wasn't too horribly boring. Send me your bad advice. Tell me the bad advice that you've heard, and let's debunk some more bad advice. Area code 863-874-0000. Anyway, guys, this has been another sermon from the Cigar Pulpit. I'm Nick. Stay safe and stay smoky. Later, guys.